Would you be the jerk for kicking your own mom out? We'll get into that in a bit, but first, am I the jerk for deciding not to use my favorite girl name for my daughter like I always wanted because my husband's sister decided to use it for hers? My husband and I, 30-year-old male and female, welcomed our second baby into the world a few weeks ago. We had originally planned to give her a name that I had adored since childhood, but then my husband's sister had a baby girl, and she decided to give her daughter this name. It came from nowhere because she always preferred timeless names like Elizabeth, Emily, Emma, Catherine, and so on. The name she ended up going for, or my favorite girl name, is Serafina. A lot of people knew it was my favorite, and it was our girl name. When I was expecting our son, we had mentioned it would be our girl name. Even before having kids, friends and family knew that that was the name I adored. But I was never fond of family members sharing the same first name. I know it happens. I know it's not the end of the world. Nobody owns a name. I also know that in some families, it's very common for relatives to have the same first name. But I personally don't love it. So, after sister-in-law had her baby, we came up with another name for our daughter. My in-laws have been surprised when sister-in-law had her daughter and announced the name. Most people had expected her daughter to be Emily because she talked about that name a lot. Serafina came from nowhere with her. When we announced our daughter's name, the actual name after she was born, we did get asked why we had chosen not to use Serafina, and my husband told them we had decided to go with something else during the pregnancy because we felt it was for the best. No specific reason given, at least not that he brought up around me, but his mom and other sister and one of his brothers did make comments to sister-in-law about it being her fault. They said it was pretty clear our change came because she used the name we intended to use. Sister-in-law ended up fighting with her mom because it's always clear I was never sister-in-law's favorite person, and she accused her of doing it spitefully. This has come back around to me because sister-in-law has now come for me, saying I should have used the name too. I shouldn't have let her get blamed for stealing a name when nobody can steal a name. I told her I never accused her of anything like that. She told me I didn't need to because the name Serafina was something everyone knew for years that I loved, and then all of a sudden I finally have a girl and use a different name. And it happens just after she also decides to use the name for her daughter. I told her we're entitled to change our minds just like she is. I also told her I don't have to answer to her. She told me I created drama for no reason and there's no way the change idea came from her brother. That it was clearly me who got butthurt over it. She told me to get over it and there could have been two Serafinas. She also accidentally admitted she'd been waiting for me to confront her on the name. She caught herself before finishing and just went on about how I changed the name to stir crap and make her family turn on her. She also accused me of using the girls as pawns in this whole thing. Am I the jerk? So, personally, I don't think OP is the jerk here. I think it's pretty heartbreaking that OP was kind of vocal about how much they loved and wanted to use this name, and then it ended up getting taken. Personally, I would feel it's almost intentional too, like some of OP's family members have suggested. That said, OP themselves hasn't actually accused or pointed fingers, and all they did was do a very rational thing, which is pick a different name when somebody in the more immediate facing side of the family has that name already. It's obviously not like it was something done purely out of spite or to try to make them feel like a bad person. If anything, clearly they feel like a bad person, and they're kind of lashing back out at OP trying to make themselves feel better about their decision. Rack of the Year commented, "She chose the name to stir crap." Not that she's owed an explanation, but choosing a different name because you don't want two cousins with the exact same name is perfectly reasonable. It was a transparent stunt that everyone saw right through. She freaked about and found out. Not the jerk, not the jerk, not the jerk. Sport Quirky 9203 added, "Yep, and had the OP stuck with her original name choice, her horrid sister-in-law would have given her crap for that instead. I'd recommend staying as far away from her as possible. She's nothing but a hateful instigator who's mad her scheme backfired. I feel terrible for OP's niece having such an unpleasant person for a mother. You're obviously not the jerk, OP." Also, hi, I'm Steven, and if you guys enjoy getting to decide whether or not all of these people are jerks, why not hit those like and subscribe buttons down below? That said, our next story is, am I the jerk for refusing to meet my biological mom after, in person, I signed up for a DNA testing site? I'm a 24-year-old male who was adopted when I was 6 years old. I've always felt incredibly lucky because my adoptive parents, who were in their late 20s when they took me in, have been nothing short of amazing. They loved and supported me as if I was their own flesh and blood. and I've never felt like anything was missing in my life because of being adopted. Growing up, I had very minimal details about my adoption. I know that I was removed from my biological family by social services due to neglect, but nothing specific. I don't remember anything about my life before I was adopted. Recently, out of simple curiosity, I decided to sign up for one of those at-home DNA testing kits. I wasn't looking for a reunion or any deep connection. I just wanted to know more about my genetic history, like why I was removed from my biological family and if there were any medical issues I should be aware of. Honestly, I didn't expect to find anyone closely related to me, so it felt like a low-stakes way to get some answers. About 8 weeks after sending off the kit, I remembered to check the results. And to my surprise, I matched with my biological mother, BM. She had sent me a message saying she was overjoyed that I had done the test, and that she desperately wanted to reconnect with me and the rest of my biological family. She mentioned that she's thought of me every day, that I was always loved, and even that I have a biological little brother who is very excited to meet me, something I didn't even know. Her message was really emotional and, to be honest, overwhelming. To me, she's a complete stranger, and reading those words didn't stir anything in me other than discomfort. I spent a lot of time crafting a thoughtful response to BM, explaining that while I appreciated her message, I wasn't interested in forming a relationship with her or any of my biological family. I made it clear that my reason for doing the DNA test was purely informational. I wanted to understand my past, maybe get some medical history, and learn why I was removed, but that was it. I apologized if my actions gave her the wrong impression. Biological mother read my message and replied, saying that she'd be willing to give me all the information I wanted, but only if I agreed to meet her at a cafe to discuss our relationship further. I refused, telling her that I wasn't comfortable with an IRL meeting. I offered a phone call as a compromise, but emphasized that I just wanted the information, and then for both of us to move on with our lives. I talked to my best friend about this, and she sided with biological mother, saying that I was being unfair. She argued that by signing up for the DNA site, I had essentially opened the door to this kind of situation, and that refusing to meet with biological mother now is like playing mind games and leading them on. So I try to be very open-minded, very understanding. I try not to be so pointed and rude, but honestly, I feel like that last sentence that was said, that came from that friend, is just utterly incorrect. Are they really trying to suggest that by taking a DNA test, you are endorsing that you are completely okay with even interacting, let alone meeting up with somebody that you might actually match with on the DNA test? I think that's flat out ludicrous. Personally, besides privacy concerns, one of the reasons I am kind of hesitant to take a DNA test like this is because of that unknown of who you're going to match up with and opening that window to at least get a message or hear from that person. But I think it's ridiculous to try to paint OP as somebody that's leading other people on just because they took a DNA test because they want to know about their background and who they are. Rowdeck commented, "As a fellow adoptee, I vote not the jerk without question. You don't owe her anything. I'd argue she owes you information though. Something she did caused the adoption to happen, and she's awful for holding that information hostage. Your friend is completely in the wrong, and if they aren't adopted, I'm not surprised about their opinion. A lot of non-adopted people have really weird opinions on how adoptees should feel and act. Classical one being that we should all feel grateful for our adoptive parents because they saved us." OP responded saying, "No, they're not adopted," which, yeah, may explain their perspective. They did annoy me though, calling me unfair for not having a relationship with them despite the fact it's not something I've ever wanted. It's unfortunate that biological mother saw I was on there and messaged me first, and I feel bad that it may have given her false hope. I wish I could have been the first to message to get it out there right away what I was expecting. Our next story is, am I the jerk for refusing to pay for group pizza? I, 26-year-old male, met up with some friends, 26/25-year-old male, at host's 24-year-old male home. When we arrived, we found that host had ordered us all pizza. There were 4 in total. They were all vegan pizzas, which isn't strange because host is vegan. None of us minded that much, but we would have ordered something else if given the choice. We aren't vegan. At the end of the night, host asked us to pay for the pizzas, and he said he didn't have any because he wasn't hungry, and insisted that we split it without him. I thought it was a bit weird, but at the time we all agreed and left. However, at the drive home, we all agreed that this was freaked up and decided we aren't going to pay because we didn't order, didn't enjoy it, and to be honest, wasn't even that hungry. There was no discussion beforehand on ordering food. Host totally pulled this on us out of nowhere. When we told Host this, he called us all jerks and now won't talk to me. The others don't think this is worth losing a friend over, but I'm honestly kind of sick at this guy. He pulls this crap all the time. So obviously OP and the friends are not the jerks here. There's a pretty clear hosting etiquette that goes on, and most of the times it's that if you're hosting, especially if you throw the event, you're probably going to be providing the food, right? Or you expressly say, bring something for the party. Or like OP's kind of hinting at towards the latter half of the story, talk about, do we want to split something equally here? Not specifically some nonsense, here's pizzas ordered the way only I like, pay me for it ridiculousness. Worth Season 3645 commented, not the jerk, you never asked for pizza, and if you did, you would have gotten your choice. To ask you to pay for something that he ordered to his home and expecting his guests to pay is extremely tacky and a jerk move. And to pay for all of it yet? What happened to any leftovers? And you say this is a regular thing for this person? This is not a friend I would want to keep in my inner circle. He is a mooch/user. I would tell others they can pay for the pizzas if they want to, but you are not paying anything. You are willing to risk the friendship of that person. Our next story is, am I the jerk for telling my sister my nephew is probably miserable because she's a hoarder? My sister's house is basically overrun with rodents. Every time I visited, I can hear the scritching and scratching. Sometimes I even catch a glimpse of one. Very creepy and unhygienic because I'm sure the droppings are everywhere. The reason they're around is because my sister is a hoarder. She keeps all these old food packages lingering around in stacks all over the house. I've kind of gently hinted that she has a problem before, but she'll deny, insisting that it's just normal clutter or that it's just not trash day yet. My nephew Jim works 2 part-time jobs and volunteers on the weekends since school has been out. I think he's just trying to get out of the house. Every time I see him, he seems so defeated and down. Recently, I was visiting him and my sister was talking about how she plans to bring in some new wallpapers to remodel the house and give it a fresher look. Jim sounded cheerful enough at first, but midway through the conversation, tears just started rolling down his face. He looked embarrassed, kind of awkwardly said sorry and left. My sister said he's been in moods lately and said, teen years. I said, teen years? Have you ever stopped to think he's unhappy because you're a dang hoarder and his home is full of mice? My sister got offended and said, how dare I call her a hoarder? The only reason I've seen her house even slightly unclean is because I'm her sister and she trusts me enough to be casual, blah blah. I didn't mean to upset her or be so mean, but I just felt so bad for my nephew and I was tired of hearing her excuses. But now she's upset with me, and I regret it because we've been so close over the years. Am I the jerk? Should I just apologize? I don't think OP's the jerk, but even a call out when it's that bad, I think it's so far gone that even a call out isn't going to do anything. I don't know how old the nephew is considering they're still in school apparently, but I think it goes without saying that they should not be living in that situation. B. Mandalore Tamad commented, not the jerk. A call to the authorities might be in order. If sister cannot/will not clean her home, then your nephew needs to be removed from it. Breathing in the air in a house with rats can make you sick. Leaving old food around the house is just as bad. This isn't safe. You were right to point it out. Maybe you owe it to her to give her a heads up before making such a call, give her one last chance to clean up, but be ready down the road. If she's a true hoarder and she does clean, don't expect it to last. OP replied saying, doing that would so break my heart, but at this point, I'll do it if it's necessary. I was thinking of maybe bringing in some cleaners if she'll just admit she has a problem, but I don't know if she will. Our next story is, am I the jerk for refusing to borrow money from my husband anymore? Me, 36-year-old female, and my husband, 37-year-old male, went to the beach last weekend and my wallet disappeared. Don't know if it was stolen or if I dropped it, but either way, it disappeared with all of my credit cards, ID, etc. We live in Japan, so I still had some money charged to my phone, which I use throughout the week to go get my residency card replaced. I have to take a train and a bus, which costs money, and I've been living on 100 yen cup noodles. When I went to get my number card replaced, a type of social security card here in Japan, I was told it costs money, so I wanted to go later when I got my cash card or a credit card back, and I could do so on my own money. But when I told my husband this, he insisted I do it immediately and said he would borrow me the money to do so. I told him I could just wait and do it later when I had access to my money again, but he came to meet me and borrowed me 10,000 yen that he withdrew from a nearby ATM. I took the money, thanked him, and assured him I would return it as soon as possible. Fast forward and my cash card arrived and 2 of my credit cards. We went out for lunch today and he went to pay, so I asked him how much I owed him for my half. He tells me not to worry because he's tallying it up in the entry space on our line chat. He puts the money there like 10,000 plus 600 plus 1050 plus 1500 without sending it to keep a tally. I don't mind that he's keeping the tally, but when I asked about the 250, he says it's for the ATM charge for the 10,000 yen he borrowed me. I don't mind paying that, and I understand that it is expensive, but I was very surprised he was counting that closely and told him I would never think of charging someone for the ATM fee to borrow money I insisted they borrow. By the way, I've never borrowed money from him before, and this is after years of me paying for things for the both of us, and his half for meals and him saying he'll pay me back later, and ultimately buying me a beer or something here and there and saying, just take 300 yen off of what I owe you. He does acknowledge this debt and he pays it back in this way though. I've never considered factoring tax into the things I pay for him or anything, and I cannot imagine a relationship where I would do something like that. Anyway, when I was surprised, I asked like, "You're actually charging me that?" And he got upset, "Because ATMs are expensive. It's not about you, it's about them." So I said that of course I will pay him, but I think if I ever needed to borrow money again, I wouldn't ask him. He got angry at me and stormed off, leaving me in the street by myself. Am I the jerk here? Edit, thanks for many comments and very insightful opinions. Up until my husband, I'd never been in a relationship longer than a year, and I had no idea that this dynamic was unusual in a relationship like ours. I suggested the idea of a joint bank account that we put some money into each month for our home and life into, and he seemed very open to the idea. It's not combining our full finances, as seems to be normal from the comments, but I hope this will be a very good step in the right direction. Thank you for all of your very helpful advice. Now, I'm not married, never been married, but I couldn't imagine getting into a relationship, marrying the person, and then down the road they need $70, which is about what 10,000 yen equates to, and even suggesting that they could borrow it from me. If I'm marrying somebody, they are absolutely going to be my ride or die, and $70, just have it. I'll cover the fee, you pick us up dinner or something later, I don't know. I'm not saying that all married couples need to have absolutely combined finances and whatnot, but I think keeping a tally when you're spotting your partner $70 when they legitimately, genuinely need it, it's just crazy. I mean, they're keeping tallies of 600 yen, 250 yen. 250 yen is less than $2 American. You're keeping a less than $2 transaction fee on the tally for your partner to get back to you? LucyBugKN commented, "Oh my god, this is not a marriage. What in the heck? Who borrows money from their spouse? This is the most freaked up crap I've ever heard. Why are you with somebody who tallies money and makes you borrow it and pay it back? That's not a marriage. That's not a relationship." Our next story is, am I the jerk for outing my friend that her baby voice isn't her normal voice? I have a friend that I'm really close to that has social anxiety, so she hasn't been out with my friends before. She finally decided to come with us, which was exciting, but she spoke completely differently. I don't know how to explain it, but she was talking in a baby voice, or maybe an anime voice. She just sounded not like herself at all. She sounded like 12 years old. When she went to the bathroom, my friends immediately asked me why she sounds like that. One of my friends said, "She sounds so young, what?" Another said, "No one sounds like that, she's clearly faking it for some reason." I admitted that yes, she was faking it, which was obvious, but I wasn't sure why she was talking like that. There were guys there that I'm friends with. Maybe she has a crush? Or just nervous? No idea. But after the hangout, I asked her why she was talking like that and she played dumb. She said, "I was talking differently? Sometimes I act different around different people." I said it wasn't just that, she sounded young. Way younger than she is. She said it was just something she was trying out and that she hopes no one noticed. I said of course they noticed, I told them it wasn't your real voice. She got upset at this and said that I shouldn't have told them that. I told her, girl, everyone knows you're faking the voice. My saying it doesn't do anything, they all know, but she's mad at me. Am I the jerk? Now, I've actually seen online where there are people who have like this whole YouTube career essentially doing this very exact thing. I've gotten sent jokey links before of like some classic rap song, but it's like some jokey anime girl voice. And then they'll have like some section or like the chorus where it's just like their actual voice. I don't know if it's like a thing they're doing for like money or if it's just like a thing that they're thinking is quirky or cute and they're just trying to do. I don't really think OP's the jerk here because it's kind of a jarring thing and I think OP's reaction is pretty honest. I don't think anything OP did was specifically meant to like shame them or put them down, but just kind of honestly be like as a friend, hey, how come you're putting on a completely different voice all of a sudden? If I just start talking like this, are people supposed to ignore it? I would expect them to call it out for sure. Bakatari commented, if it was so obvious that everyone knew she was faking it, there's really no place for you to retreat to without sounding disingenuous yourself. She said it was just something she was trying out that she hopes no one noticed. What? Is she from the Elizabeth Holmes school of fake your voice and affectations and pretend that nobody knows when they clearly all knew right away? Not the jerk. You didn't out her. Her voice was so obviously not real that she outed herself. You just didn't lie for her, nor should you have. Our next story is, am I the jerk for making a room just for me in my house and not allowing anyone else to use it? I, female 38, and my husband, 39-year-old male, and kids, 9-year-old male, female 6, moved at around the beginning of summer. The house is mostly furnished, but still has a good amount of space that will mostly go unused. I've began to start decorating a room that we have no plans to use. Just small stuff, nothing too crazy. I just wanted to use the area to indulge in my hobbies. When my husband found out, he was freaking livid because I didn't get permission to do that. Which is weird as freak because I'm not a child. He figured out what I was doing as I was still setting the room up, but the furniture I was using was the stuff he was planning to throw away anyways. I'm talking perfectly fine couches, TVs, etc. because he wanted something new. I was just putting it to good use, so I'm not understanding why he's upset. This happened 3 days ago, and now he's being extremely immature by being intentionally distant. Am I the jerk? I mean, I guess the question I would have here is it agreed that OP just has their own room to do whatever they want with? Is there enough space for the husband to do the same thing if he wanted to decorate a room however he wanted? I would love OP to answer, do they think it's fair that OP decides what exactly goes into that room, regardless of the fact that it's unused space that they weren't planning to use, without a say from anybody else? Did OP themselves pay for that house themselves? There's kind of a lot of ambiguity to really give a definite answer. If I had to go solely off of what OP said and had to say you're the jerk or not the jerk, I think I would lean slightly towards you are the jerk solely because it sounds like OP is going forward with this without any input from anybody else. And I'm assuming with this family in this house, it wasn't something that was only OP's call to begin with. Best Tumbleweed 6931 gave a judgment of not enough info, saying, his reaction is definitely outrageous and squarely in jerk territory, but I'm confused by your behavior too. Do you normally not talk to each other and build your life and house together? Do you normally just operate independently of each other and hope it works out? Our next story is, am I the jerk for telling my wife her reaction to a waitress not taking a picture was over the top? I, 37-year-old male, met my sister in commonly visited city a few weeks back. My wife, 37-year-old female, came with me and my 2 kids, 8-year-old female and 6-year-old male. The restaurant was nice, and she asked the waitress to take all of us a picture, and she said, "That's not part of the job," and walked away. I offered to take the picture instead, but she wanted all of us to be in it, so whatever. When the bill came, she snatched that crap and made sure to put 0 tip over the picture. I would have tipped her cash, but my wife would have told the waitress to give it back, and I didn't want to embarrass her like that. Anyways, when we were driving back to our hotel, I told her that I thought tipping 0 was a bit mean. I mean, me personally, I would have just taken the picture, but I guess in the job description, nowhere did it say take pictures for customers. I also said her reaction was a bit over the top. She said if she didn't want to do stuff like that, working at a tourist city wasn't for her. Before I could say something back, she put in her AirPods and straight up ignored me. Am I the jerk? Now, I don't know if I'm in the wrong here, but I honestly feel like both sides, and by both sides I mean the wife and the waitress, were kind of ridiculous here. I don't think taking the picture is too ridiculous of an ask for the waitress. I think the waitress's reaction of "that's not my job" and walking away is kind of indicative you're probably going to get stiffed on the tip. The wife's reaction of snatching up the bill and making sure it specifically said 0. Like, I get it, but it was a little hot-headed too. I'm not saying that you need to leave a tip, but it was a little heated. I really think OP had good intentions here. People might say OP was the jerk for not sticking with their partner. I think what makes OP maybe the jerk here is actually continuing to bring it up once it's all over. Like trying to continue framing to their wife that their wife is wrong. Please Stop 435 commented, "I'll probably get downvoted, but I don't know. As a former waitress, I would never be so rude. I mean, it's a hospitality job. It is her job to be hospitable. I would gladly take any pictures of groups. It's literally no skin off my back to do so, and is a good indicator people have enjoyed their time, i.e., probably a good tip as well. I don't think asking for one picture is asking the waitress to be a personal photographer. I am very anti-not tipping waitstaff, but to be honest, I could see why this would warrant being stiffed and why your wife was upset. That rude of a response to a harmless request would probably tank the good mood of the dinner. If your wife is normally pro-tipping and this isn't a regular thing, I do think you're the jerk for not having her back." Our next story is, "Am I the jerk kicking my mom out? I'm 25-year-old female, married, and mom of 3 small children. Things are out of control since my mother moved in. She's 56, divorced, retired Army veteran, and until recently had a job for 9 years. She lost it after getting caught napping in the bathroom at work, something she'd bragged about in the past. She was gone so long that her boss went looking for her. Rather than face getting fired, she quit. She is in good health, Christian, never had alcohol or drugs, and no known mental health issues. With her having nowhere to go and having alienated most of our family, I felt I had to let her move in, even though we hadn't spoken in over 2 years. She's the 4th of 9 siblings. None speak to her. All 5 of my older siblings went no contact with her about 8 years ago. My husband and kids had never even met her in person before this. The first 2 months were tense but manageable. However, things have taken a turn for the worse with a few minor but 2 major incidents. The first happened when my husband was away for work. We had been exchanging some intimate emails. One night, I went to the kitchen for a glass of water and found my mother using my MacBook. She quickly closed it and began apologizing for reading my emails. I was shocked when I realized she had seen everything, including some explicit pictures of my husband. I didn't tell him that part. I lost my composure and haven't been able to talk to her much since. She hides in the guest room, avoiding even her grandchildren. The final straw came after a family outing with my hubby and kiddos. We had prepared a slow-cook meal in the oven so that dinner would be ready when we returned. After being out for about 7 hours, we came home to find our entire meal, a dish meant for 6 people, gone. 5 chicken leg quarters with sides. It was as if animals had ravaged it, but it was just my mother. She sat in the living room, hands covering her mouth, eyes wide with shame, saying, "I couldn't stop, I just couldn't stop picking at it." There was nothing left but bones and drippings. My husband and I were too shocked to speak. We retreated to our bedroom in silence, trying to process what had happened while the kids played in the other room. I felt like I was drowning in embarrassment and frustration. My mother later knocked on our door and offered to buy us Taco Bell. We just stared at her until she left. I called one of my brothers and a sister, both of whom reminded me that they had warned me not to let her move in. My mother-in-law is kind and nurturing, the complete opposite of my mom, and my husband doesn't know how to exist around her. I've given her a month to find other living arrangements. I'm afraid that if she stays, things will only get worse. We feel the need to lock our bedroom door when we aren't home for the sake of privacy since she's a snoop. I feel like I'm on edge. It's only been 3 days since the last episode. Am I the jerk for kicking her out? OP is obviously not the jerk. This has caused way too much of an absolute disruption to their lives. Not just a disruption, but a huge annoyance. It's one of those situations where you look at all of the things that have happened in such a short amount of time and you say, you can't keep going on like this. It's just not feasible. OP's not the jerk for prioritizing the health of themselves and their family and kicking her out. 77meg77 commented, "Not the jerk. Of course you're not wrong for asking her to move out. Your mother has no idea how to respect boundaries or any desire to even attempt to do so. Rather than be grateful to you for giving her a place to stay, she is taking advantage of you. She knew darned well she was wrong to snoop in your emails, wrong to eat your family's dinner, and wrong to have slept in the bathroom at her job in the first place. She doesn't care who she takes advantage of. Don't let her walk all over you. You gave her a lifeline and she blew it. I think giving her a month to find somewhere else to stay was more than generous. Do not back down or you will be stuck with her forever." But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. Now, if you want to hear another crazy Am I the Jerk Here story, check out that video on the left. Or if you missed my latest video, check out that video on the right. That said, I'll see you all next time with some more stories.